Welcome to Cheat Sheet Tales, where secrets slip, lies unravel, and the truth always has a twist. Real stories, raw confessions, shocking betrayals. Drop a comment if you've ever caught a red flag too late. Now, let's get into today's tale. My dad died unexpectedly. The manager says, "If you're the president, we'll all quit." But what I did left them breathless. The morning began like any other, with the faint hum of my alarm clock slicing through the stillness of dawn. I reached out groggily to silence it, already dreading another day at work. Another day trying to prove myself in a company that had always felt more like Dad's domain than mine. My father, Daniel Montgomery, was not just a man, but an institution within. Our family-owned business, Hayes Innovations. He built it from scratch, a modest tech startup operating out of his garage, to one of the most respected names in software development. To me, he wasn't just a dad. He was my hero, my mentor, and sometimes even my biggest critic. And now he was gone. I remember sitting on the cold hospital chair, staring blankly at the floor, as if hoping for some divine intervention to rewrite reality. The doctor's words echoed hollowly in my ears. Massive heart attack. No warning, no time to say goodbye. Just gone in an instant. Everything changed. Not only did I lose the person who shaped every part of my life, but I also inherited his legacy and all the weight that came with it. By noon, news spread throughout the office faster than wildfire. Whispers filled the corridors, punctuated by sympathetic glances cast my way. It didn't take long before they called an emergency meeting in the boardroom. The same room where Dad used to sit confidently at the head of the table, commanding respect without ever raising his voice. Now, I stood there awkwardly, feeling small under their collective gaze. They were waiting for answers, waiting for leadership, waiting for something. But what could I possibly offer? I wasn't ready for this. "Listen," Ethan Brooks, the senior manager, finally broke the tense silence. His tone was clipped, almost accusatory. "We need clarity here. Who's going to lead us moving forward?" Before anyone else could respond, Mia Lawson, one of the project managers, chimed in nervously. "Well, technically, Lily Carter is next in line, right? She's Richard's daughter." A murmur rippled through the room, growing louder, until Ethan Brooks slammed his fist against the polished oak table. "Absolutely not!" he barked, standing abruptly. "If she thinks she can waltz in here and call herself president after years of being nothing more than Richard's shadow, then we might as well pack up and leave now. None of us signed up for this kind of amateur hour." His words hit me like a punch to the gut. Amateur hour. That's how they saw me. A wave of anger surged inside me, hot and sharp. But beneath it lay something deeper, an ache so profound it threatened to swallow me whole. How dare he dismiss me like that? Didn't he know how much I loved this company? How much I'd sacrificed for it? But instead of lashing out, I forced myself to breathe deeply, clutching the edge of the table for support. "You want to quit?" I asked quietly, my voice trembling despite my best efforts to steady it. "Fine. Go ahead. Walk out the door. But before you do, let me remind you of something. This isn't about me. This isn't even about my father anymore. This is about you. About whether you believe in what we've built together, or if you're willing to throw it all away because you're scared." Silence fell over the room, thick and suffocating. Some looked down guiltily, while others exchanged uneasy glances. For a moment, I thought maybe I'd pushed too far, said too little. Then, Ethan Brooks crossed his arms defiantly and leaned, back in his chair. "Prove it," he challenged. "Prove to us that you're capable of leading this company. Otherwise, none of us will stick around to watch it crumble." And just like that, the gauntlet was thrown. That night, sleep eluded me entirely. Every time I closed my eyes, fragments of memories played on loop. Dad teaching me how to code when I was 8, cheering me on during school presentations, telling me stories about the early days of Hayes Innovations when failure seemed inevitable, yet somehow thrilling. He always told me, success isn't about never falling. It's about getting back up every single time. Those words haunted me now, urging me to rise above the chaos threatening to consume me. As dawn crept into my bedroom, painting the walls with soft hues of gold and pink, I made a decision. If they wanted proof, I would give them proof. Not just of my competence, but of my commitment. I spent hours drafting plans, analyzing reports, and brainstorming ideas. By the time Monday rolled around, I walked into the office armed with a vision so bold, it left even me breathless. "Good morning, everyone," I announced as I entered the conference room, carrying a stack of folders thicker than any of them expected. Gone was the uncertainty from last week. In its place stood determination, etched into every line of my face. I know tensions have been high, and I understand why. Change is scary. Losing someone as irreplaceable as my father, well, it shakes the foundation of everything we thought, we knew. But here's the thing. We don't have to let fear dictate our future. Instead, we can use it as fuel to grow stronger, smarter, better. Ethan Brooks raised an eyebrow skeptically. "Talk is cheap." Lily Carter shot him a look. "Show us what you've got." Without hesitation, I opened the first folder and slid copies across the table. Inside were detailed proposals outlining new product lines, expansion strategies, and innovative marketing campaigns designed to catapult Hayes Innovations into uncharted territory. Each idea had been meticulously researched, supported by data, and tailored specifically to leverage our strengths while addressing weaknesses. "This isn't just pie-in-the-sky dreaming," I explained firmly. "These are actionable steps, backed by months of preparation. Yes, I've been learning quietly in the background, observing how things operate, identifying areas for improvement. And yes, I intend to implement these changes immediately, with your help." For a moment, no one spoke. The air buzzed with tension. Anticipation hung in the air as they flipped through the documents, their expressions shifting from skepticism to intrigue. Finally, Mia Lawson broke the silence. These are actually pretty impressive," she admitted reluctantly. "But executing them won't be easy. Are you sure you're ready for this?" "I'm not sure of anything right now," I confessed honestly, except that I refuse to let my father's legacy die with him. "If you're willing to trust me, even just a little, I promise to give everything I have to make this company thrive. Together, we can honor his memory by pushing boundaries and achieving greatness." One by one, heads nodded around the table. Even Ethan Brooks softened slightly, though his jaw remained stubbornly clenched. "All right," he muttered gruffly. "Let's see what you're made of." Over the following weeks, I threw myself into the work with relentless energy. Late nights became routine, fueled by endless cups of coffee and sheer willpower. I held weekly check-ins with each department, listening intently to their concerns and incorporating their feedback into our evolving strategy. Slowly but surely, resistance gave way to collaboration. Doubt transformed into belief, and resentment melted into camaraderie. But challenges persisted. Suppliers questioned our ability to meet deadlines. Clients hesitated to renew contracts. Competitors seized opportunities to undermine us. Yet every obstacle only strengthened my resolve. Whenever frustration threatened to overwhelm me, I reminded myself of Dad's favorite mantra: "When life knocks you down, get up swinging." Then came the day when disaster struck again, this time in the form of a major client pulling out unexpectedly. Panic rippled through the ranks as projections plummeted overnight. Once again, Ethan Brooks stormed into my office, slamming papers onto my desk. "This is exactly why we shouldn't have trusted you," he shouted angrily. "You've ruined everything." Tears pricked at the corners of my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. Taking a deep breath, I met his fiery gaze head-on. "No, Ethan Brooks, you're wrong. This isn't failure. It's redirection. Watch me turn this around." And so, with gritted teeth and unwavering determination, I devised a daring plan to win back not only that client, but also others who had begun slipping away. It involved risks, huge ones, but calculated risks nonetheless. As I presented the proposal to the team, their initial skepticism morphed into cautious optimism. Perhaps, just perhaps, we stood a chance after all. What happened next would test us beyond anything we'd faced before and redefine what it truly meant to be a leader. The days that followed were a blur of sleepless nights, endless phone calls, and countless cups of coffee. I knew the stakes were higher than ever. If this plan failed, it wouldn't just be my credibility on the line. It would be the future of Hay Innovations itself. The weight of responsibility pressed down on me like an invisible hand. But instead of letting it crush me, I used it to fuel my resolve. My strategy was audacious, perhaps even reckless by some standards. It involved pivoting our flagship product, a software suite designed for small businesses, into something entirely new, a modular platform tailored to enterprise-level clients. This wasn't just a tweak. It was a complete overhaul, requiring us to re-engineer core functionalities, expand server capacity, and build integrations with systems we'd never touched before. But there was no time for hesitation. Every hour wasted meant another client, slipping through our fingers. I gathered the team in the boardroom once more, spreading out blueprints, flowcharts, and timelines across the table. "This is our Hail Mary," I said, my voice steady despite the storm raging inside me. "If we pull this off, we'll not only win back the clients who doubted us, but we'll position ourselves as leaders in a market we've barely scratched the surface of. But make no mistake, this will push every single one of us to our limits." Ethan Brooks crossed his arms, skepticism etched into every line of his face. "And if we fail?" he asked. "Then we go down swinging," I replied without missing a beat. But failure isn't an option, not while I'm still breathing. To their credit, the team didn't flinch. Over the past weeks, they had seen glimpses of what I was capable of, how I rolled up my sleeves alongside them, how I listened when they voiced concerns, how I refused to back down even when things looked grim. Slowly but surely, trust had begun to take root. Now, faced with this monumental challenge, they chose to stand with me. The next month was nothing short of grueling. Developers worked around the clock, debugging code and optimizing performance. Designers revamped user interfaces, ensuring the platform was intuitive yet powerful enough to meet the demands of larger organizations. Sales teams reached out to former clients, pitching the upcoming changes and securing tentative commitments. Meanwhile, I juggled meetings, negotiations, and crisis management, often collapsing into bed long after midnight, only to rise again at dawn. There were moments when doubt crept in, whispering cruel truths about how impossible this task truly was. One particularly brutal evening, after hours spent troubleshooting a critical bug that threatened to derail the entire project, I found myself alone in the office, staring blankly at lines of code on my monitor. My eyes burned from exhaustion, and my body ached from sitting hunched over for too long. For the first time since taking over, I allowed myself to cry. Silent tears streaming down my cheeks as the enormity of everything hit me all at once. Dad's absence felt sharper than ever in those quiet, lonely hours. How many times had he sat in this very chair, wrestling with problems far greater than mine? Had he ever doubted himself, or did he always know exactly what to do? As if summoned by my thoughts, memories of him flooded my mind, his laughter echoing. As the first anniversary of Dad's passing approached, I found myself reflecting on everything that had transpired since that fateful day. So much had changed. Not just externally, but internally. I was no longer the same woman who had walked into that boardroom, trembling under the weight of expectations and grief. I had grown stronger, wiser, and more resilient. And yet, there were still days when the absence of his voice, a guiding force I had relied on for so long, felt unbearable. To honor his memory, I decided to host a special event at the office, a day dedicated to celebrating not only what we had achieved, but also the values Dad instilled in all of us. We transformed the main conference room into a tribute space, filling it with photos, MOS, and stories from employees about how Daniel Montgomery had impacted their lives. Some recalled his mentorship, others his humor, and many his unwavering belief in their potential. The room buzzed with laughter, tears, and gratitude, a testament to the indelible mark he had left behind. At the center of it all stood a large plaque engraved with words I knew he would have approved of. Success isn't measured by what you accomplish alone, but by the lives you touch along the way. When it came time for me to speak, I stepped up to the podium, my heart pounding, looking out at the sea of faces, people who had become my second family. I took a deep breath and began. A year ago, I stood before you, unsure of whether I could fill the shoes of the man who meant so much to all of us. To be honest, I'm still not sure I can. But what I've come to realize is that I don't have to. Because my father's legacy doesn't live in one person. It lives in all of us. In the work we do, the care we show each other, and the dreams we dare to chase. Tears glistened in the eyes of those gathered, but so did smiles. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel the sharp sting of loss quite so acutely. Instead, I felt surrounded by love, by purpose, by hope. In the years that followed, Hayes Innovations continued to soar. We expanded globally, launched groundbreaking products, and fostered a culture rooted in collaboration and innovation. Yet, even as we reached new heights, I never lost sight of why we started this journey in the first place: to honor a man who believed in the power of possibility. The 5th anniversary of Dad's passing, I returned to the hospital where it had all begun. Standing outside the building, I clutched a small envelope containing a letter I had written to him. A letter filled with gratitude, memories, and promises kept. As I released it into the wind, watching it flutter away like a bird taking flight, I whispered, "Thank you, Dad, for everything." And then, turning toward the horizon, I walked away. Not with sadness, but with peace. Because while endings are inevitable, legacies endure, and ours was just beginning.